everyone, and welcome back to Liftoff with Jeanniey Walden. I'm your host, Jeanniey Walden. I created Liftoff so that people like you and me could get the information we need to make the most of our personal and professional lives. I call it work-life blend. So let's have some fun. And I'm going to challenge you to learn 3 new things during this episode. You ready? Let's get started. Jonathan Sposato is a serial entrepreneur and investor in many startups. His latest venture is joysauce.com. It's an AAPI-centered platform designed to showcase more TV shows, movies, podcasts, and inclusive original editorial from emerging AAPI talent. So happy to have you on, Jonathan.
So happy to be here. I'm just really pleased that you could have me on, and I'm excited to talk with you.
Me too. Jonathan, we share a love of hosting in common. Tell us all about your late night show and what it's like having such inspiring celebrities, disruptors, and innovators, and game changers in the AAPI community as guests.
That's right. I'm happy to. So it kind of began with this idea, well, what if we could normalize more Asian American faces in mainstream media? And what if actually nobody had to be like a martial arts master or ineffably exotic? What if we were just all normal people, normal American Asians, I call them, doing really great things? And so we started with this idea, well, let's take a talk show, a late night talk show format, which is probably one of the most American sort of normal things. And what if all of the faces, the guests that you would have on, the comedy sketches and all the actors there, the host, the musical guests, even people behind the camera and on the set, doing things behind the scenes. What if everyone was American Asian? What would that look like? And so I'm happy to report that it's a little bit of magic in a sense that as you're watching it, you're lulled into this, like, oh my God. Well, first of all, that there's so much talent. There's so many people out there who've not been discovered, who not everyone can get a Netflix special. And here they are on our show. But also that there's a little bit of magic that comes from the sense that, you know what, we all have a lot more in common than we have differences.
I love it. Now, it's really, really compelling. But let's talk about your background. Your background is you're a serial entrepreneur and you're the chairman and founder of various startups. What are some of the proudest business accomplishments you've had outside of this show?
Yeah. Outside of this show, gosh, it's almost like sometimes I joke that they're like children, where you can't publicly say that this one was your favorite or that one was your favorite. But if I had to pick just for you, Jeannie, I would say that probably one of my proudest startups was picnic.com, picnik.com, which was the second company that I had sold to Google at that point. But what was really neat about it was I learned so much about company culture and how to get that right. And believe me, I've done a lot of things wrong prior to that point. And I've probably done things wrong since then too, assuredly. But with picnic.com, it was just an incredible group of people doing very mission driven. We really set out literally to change the world. What if we could unlock people, kind of break people out of having to spend $600-700 on something like Photoshop and having to learn how to use this complicated tool? And it was just a wonderful product. And we reached at some point, I think it was 60 million unique users a month. And we were, I think, one of the most or the most popular photo editing tool on the internet for quite a number of years. And so I was very proud of that one.
Wow. Yeah, I love it. I love everything that you're doing. And on behalf of the show and our viewers, really, we wish you continued success. Anything we can do to help make it even more successful. And thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and everything that you're doing on Liftoff.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Really appreciate being here.
Absolutely. For all of you viewers, I'm sure you love that, but don't go away because we've got more to come after the break. Welcome back. Jack Kelly is the CEO, founder, and executive recruiter at one of the oldest and largest global search firms in his area of expertise. He has personally placed thousands of professionals with top-tier companies over the last 20-plus years. Jack is passionate about advocating for job seekers. He's also a senior contributor for Forbes, co-host of the Blind Ambition podcast, and author of Happy and Succeeding in Your Job Search. Thanks so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about WeCruiter and your background.
So with WeCruiter, during the pandemic, we started a startup. And it was pretty much a philanthropic kind of endeavor in that we wanted to help people. As you know, it's what, thousands and thousands of people lost their jobs. People worried about losing their jobs. So what we did is we had like crash courses in how to interview, how to negotiate salary, how to find a recruiter, uh, anything you need to know to succeed. And it was fantastic because people were so, it's funny now, like 3 years later, we kind of forget about it. But at the time, people panicked. They're worried. Well, am I ever going to get a job again? Am I ever going to get employed? What's going to happen? So we kind of gave them all the tools to do it. And it's one of those things where this is going to sound weird, but like, I'm happy that happened because we were able to contribute and really make people's lives better during such a dark time.
Yeah, isn't it so nice to be
Yeah.
able to do something that
Yeah.
helps others? And I remember those days. Nobody
Yeah.
knew if businesses were going
Yeah.
to exist. Nobody knew, but now hopefully we're out of it. And you've learned all of this, and you've been able to create and author this new book, Happy and Succeeding in Your Job Search, which is such a perfect time for this book. Tell us why you feel it was really critical to get the book out right now.
Because what's happening now is it went from, we talk about the pandemic, to things got not only good, it went crazy, went parabolic. Everything seemed wonderful. People were being hired. You had the great resignation, quiet quitting, acting your wage, bare minimum Mondays. So like people would just, they had jobs and weren't worried. And then all of a sudden, 2022 coming into 2023 happens, and now you have layoffs. There's like 300,000 tech people laid off from last year to this year. So people are worried again. We have high inflation, high interest rates, worrying about World War III. I mean, you could just keep putting on this stuff, so people are concerned. So what I wanted to do is have a way to tell people, hey, here's what you can do, and make it really simple. How to find a recruiter, how to interview, what do you need to do for salary negotiations, what do you do on LinkedIn to get noticed. So kind of taking baby steps along the way so you could kind of learn, all right, here are the tools, here's what I can do to help myself find a job. Or even if you have a job, how do I switch jobs without getting caught, without my boss knowing about it, without getting fired because they find out that I'm looking? So try to package that all together. So it's like a one way to just to kind of manage your career and succeed.
What advice do you have for job seekers? How can they stand out? Do they put the open to work on their LinkedIn profile? Do they let recruiters find them? Or is it a job in itself to go find a job right now?
It's definitely a job in itself. It's like that's your new job. Even if you're working, I would say this: if you're working or not working, you want to kind of hedge your bets. So let's say you're happy where you are and you're doing well. You still want to hedge your bets by finding some recruiters who specialize in your space. You can't just get any recruiter. You want to find someone who knows what you do, your background, your experience. For instance, you're a marketing executive. If you asked me to help as a compliance recruiter, I probably couldn't help too much. And you would end up being annoyed, like, why is Jack not helping? So you want to find someone who knows that area, who can make the introductions, who know the HR people, who know hiring managers, who knows the corporate culture to help guide you through it. If you're looking for a job, similarly, you want to do everything to stand out because, as you pointed out, it's a crowded field. So what can you do? Go on LinkedIn. For most white collar professionals, LinkedIn is a go-to place. So you go there, you want to post things, you want to comment on other things, you want to get in touch with recruiters, internal recruiters at the companies. You also want to leverage your network. I think that's the most important part. You don't want to go it alone, and you don't have to go it alone. So if you find somebody who knows somebody at a target company, let's say you would love to work for Google, instead of just sending an email, you want to find someone, who do I know that works at Google? Or if not, who do I know who knows someone, like 6 separate, degrees of separation?
Right.
Who do I know who could kind of put a good word in for me and say, hey, Jack submitted a resume, but I really want you to take a look at him. That's kind of a little hack because most people feel, hey, I'm just going to send over, my resume and that's it. But if you could kind of get behind the scenes, get that right person, it's a big difference.
So true. It's so true.
Yeah.
And I love helping people that are looking for their next roles. And I know people feel really good when they can help somebody get into a role that they love, especially if they've been seeking for a while. This has been incredible. I know that all the viewers are probably writing all the stuff down, taking screenshots of pictures of the screen and just really going to come back. And I'm sure they're going to buy your book. So thank you so much, Jack, for coming on, talking with us, and for being on Liftoff.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Our next guest is no stranger to the question, how do you do it all? Sanya Richards-Ross is a 4-time four-time Olympic gold medalist, a mother, a brand ambassador, and a member of one of our favorite shows. She's a member of the cast of Bravo's Real Housewives of Atlanta. Oh my God, I am such a fan. Just wow. I'm a fan of everything about you, Sanya. We're so happy to have you on the show.
Oh, Jeannie, thank you so much for having me. This is a treat.
So I just have so many questions to ask you. I'm just going to start with all those accolades. Four-time Olympic gold medalist. What is the Olympic training and competing experience even like? I have a hard time waking up to make sure I exercise in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, it is a full-time job, a full-time commitment. But I think, when I reflect on my days of training and chasing Olympic gold, it was a childhood dream. When I was 9 years old, I told my teacher I'd be an Olympic champion. And I think it's an incredible thing when you kind of know very early on what it is that you want to do. And so I just dedicated my life to it. It was 5 days a week on the track, 4 days a week in the gym, Pilates, eating right, resting, traveling, all the things. But it was nothing quite like running into my destiny when I won my fourth Olympic gold medal, my individual gold medal in the 400. It was a dream come true. And, all the best memories, all the good things.
I just love it. I think, you just had to be so proud of yourself for
Thank
getting
you.
through and getting to the end. It's really amazing. So we get to see your husband and your family on Real Housewives of Atlanta. And you are so candid and honest about your experiences. What is it really like being on the show?
It's so funny because people ask me all the time, like, how come you went to do housewives, all this stuff. So the first thing, Jeannie, is I always say yes to life. So whenever I get opportunities, I always say yes. And then I'm prayerful and I figure it out. And if it flows easily, then I do it. And so I think for me, I like things that stretch me. I like things that make my heart feel like it's beating out of my chest, like when I was standing on the start line at the Olympics. And this show certainly gets my heart beating out of my chest because I never know what to expect with the ladies. And so it's been a lot of fun. And to be very honest, the second season was even more fun. I got to really know the women. I think it's going to be a great season. So I'm excited about it.
And I'm still waiting for the day when I walk into a restaurant, somebody recognizes me. So your life, though, must have changed significantly. Tell us,
Yeah.
like, what's the biggest change that's happened since you started doing the show, and how do
Yeah.
you use that to approach, business?
Yeah, that's another great question. So when I was in the peak of my career, like I go to places like Jamaica or I'm overseas in Europe or, in New York, there are lots of people who follow track and field and who would know me. But my goodness, I was not prepared for the Bravo fans that are just so vested and just love the show. And so it's been really cool for people to come up, and especially when people connect with my story, whether it's, the struggle of having a second child or transitioning different work or living with my family. It's just been really great to connect with people in that way. And so for me, I just have been using this once again as an opportunity to continue to grow my businesses and to continue to do all the things that I love to do, and of course have my family right beside me.
Your latest business adventure and ventures sound like so much fun, and it's just so compelling to watch you and just kind of see them unfold. But I think we're probably seeing things after they've already happened. So tell us about some of your latest business ventures.
That's actually a good thing that you bring up, because sometimes we film the show and it airs 4 or 5 months later and you almost forget all of the things that you've experienced, all the things that happened on the show. So it's like you're reliving your whole life twice, right? When you think about it. But a couple of things that I'm working on that I'm super excited about. I have an organization called Mommy Nation that is a blog and a virtual resource that supports Black moms in every way. This past weekend, we were working on helping support an organization. Black women are 4 times more likely to die during childbirth. So I'm just really passionate about making an impact in ensuring that moms go home with their babies and they have the resources that they need to have a successful experience through motherhood. So you can follow Mommy Nation online or on social media. I'm also launching a new business on the show this year that I'm super excited about, super on brand for me, something that I'm really passionate about and love, but I don't want to be a spoiler, so you'll have to watch to see. It will be probably towards the end of the season, and it'll be coming out towards the end of this year, so I'm really excited about that. I do all the track and field stuff, and I work with Nike, so lots of fun things happening, and growing our family, just all kinds of fun things.
So you're very busy and you seem to handle it all flawlessly. How do you create space for everything that you want to accomplish?
That's a great question. And I think you're right, right? It's like this. you're constantly trying to figure out how to balance it all and how to give your full self to all of the things. And, I think for me, what works for me is prioritizing. And so I ensure that I always have time with my family. I put my family first. And so when I'm with them, I give them 100%, no phones. I'm just completely engaged with my family. And then when it comes to my work ventures, I try to give 100% to that. But I think ultimately, as women, whenever we're trying to do all the things and we're trying to lift off, we got to give ourselves some grace because, you can't be everything to everybody all the time. And so when you're out doing your business stuff, you're obviously not with your family, and that's okay, right? Because you're doing it for your family. And so I think for me, it's about prioritizing my family, giving myself grace, and just being really grateful for all the things that I have. I come from a perspective of gratitude and love. And, that just kind of inspires everything that I do.
I love it. I love it. And Sanya, I'm a firm believer that we are all put on this earth to do something that inspires others. And you are absolutely making that happen today. Thank you so much for being on Liftoff. And I cannot wait to see what's coming next season.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The weather's heating up, and that means we are ready to talk spring and summer travel. Julie Sagoskin is the editor in chief of Park Magazine. She's a television personality and former radio host. She's here to tell us about some of her picks and tricks for the best in travel. Welcome to Lift Up, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeannie. Great to be here.
Absolutely love having you here. We know that travel is a big part of our work-life blend and keeping motivated. Tell me, why do you think it's so important, even for busy entrepreneurs, to have that work-life blend?
I think travel is important for all of us, and especially entrepreneurs. As you know, it's easy to get burnt out, especially these days. So really taking time to unplug, recharge is a great way to take care of yourself. And we know when we're taking care of ourselves, we go back to the office and we're the best version of who we can be, and that really helps everybody.
It's so true. And sometimes you don't realize it until you're on vacation for a while, or at least outside of the work zone for a couple days. All right. So for all the viewers out there, what are some of the hottest travel tips and destinations right now?
Well, I literally just got back from Monte Carlo in Monaco. It was a dream trip, and every turn that I went, I was blown away. It was so majestic. It was my own Princess Grace Kelly moment. And I have to say, for me, I don't know about you, but the hotel is always so important. And Hotel de Paris, I have to give a shout out. It was so special, has so much history, and just really brought everything together.
I love Monte Carlo. I was there last summer and had a chance to go into the casino and just walk around. And in those gardens, they were gorgeous, right?
Spectacular, like a movie set.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now we know why Princess Grace Kelly enjoyed her life out there as much as she did. So travel is super, super important. And you've been to one of the most iconic and amazing destinations. What'd you bring on your trip that we need to remember not to forget?
Okay, well, Jeannie, I don't know about you, but when I'm on a plane and I get off, I'm exhausted, my makeup is dripping, I'm excited to be there, but I am a total mess. So there's this great little pack called care.e.on, and it's literally 5 little mini essentials. It's super great, it's easy to carry, and you'll just feel refreshed and ready to go.
So perfect. I definitely have to get one of those. It sounds really like must have for any travel. Okay, so we can't talk about travel without finances. How did you find and how do our viewers find the best deals on travel?
Well, I have to say, if you're willing to be a little adventurous, there's an amazing app called Hopper, and they have so many great last minute hotel deals and really special properties. So I think if you keep an open mind, you never know what you might find, and it might be worth even going somewhere new or you haven't thought about for another experience.
That's great. And these are such great tips. So we know everything. We're ready to go. Now we know where to go, how to find the best deal on it, and what to bring with us on the plane so we look perfect. Julie, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Can't wait to be back.
Absolutely. All right. Well, now that we've got vacation on our mind, let's keep that going by talking about Renovation Island. And that's up after this break. Welcome back. Our next guest is Bryan Baumler, home renovation expert and hotelier. Bryan can be spotted on HGTV network shows including Renovation Resort, Rock the Block, Battle on the Beach, and others, of course. He joins us now to tell us about his business ventures and adventures overall. Welcome, Bryan.
Oh, well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Hey, Bryan, this show is about work-life blend. What gave you the idea to pick up and go to Renovation Island?
To be honest, I spent a lot of time down in the Florida Keys with family, with kids, and we have a big boat there, and we decided to poke around in the Bahamas, and we've always had that adventurous spirit. And we came across this dilapidated, abandoned hotel that has a lot of history in the Bahamas. And Sarah and I looked at each other after touring the property, and it honestly was a 5 minute decision. I said we should buy this place, and her response was yes, we should. And by the next day, we had an accepted offer on paper. So it was
Wow.
really just that gut feel of this feels right. It's the right time in our lives. It's the right place, and let's go on this crazy adventure.
Yeah, there was somebody famous that said, I've had so many jobs, but I've never worked a day in my life. If you do what you love, it just shows. And I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what you're doing. So, what advice do you have for all of our viewers who are looking to get the courage to follow their dream?
It's interesting. A lot of people ask, or a lot of people commented when we told them we're going to pack up the 4 kids in our lives and get on the boat, and we're going to this island, and we're going to make it happen. And all we heard was, you can't do that. You can't pull the kids out of school. They won't catch up. You can't go to another country where, you don't know the culture of the people. You can't risk everything financially. And my answer to that is, well, the alternative is to spend the next 30 years of my life getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and commuting for an hour or two on the highway, working the day, commuting an hour or two back, and do that for 30 years and then retire. And with my luck, the morning after I retire is when the chest pains will start. And my message is that the net result of life, whether you do the things you're excited about, whether you take the risks, whether you live life, or whether you don't, and whether you do what other people expect you to do and play it safe, the net result is the same. None of us are making it out of here alive, unfortunately. That's the truth. So we have between now and then, and whether you do it or you don't, whether you risk it or you won't, whether you live the life you dreamed of or you compromise on life in order to just be stable and safe, the net result is the same. So if there's something you're dreaming of, go for it. It's never too late to try something new, and you can always start over.
That is perfect advice from an adventurous entrepreneur. But I know that when you do something crazy, like me leaving my job to start this TV show at Liftoff, there's always unexpected challenges that you look back after everything's been said and done and say, well, I wish I knew that before I started this. It would have made it easier. What 3 things do you wish you knew before you went on this adventure?
To narrow it down to three, I mean, there are thousands of things we wish we knew. We're great at building, developing, putting things together. Sarah's incredible at designing. Um, we got to a point where we realized we don't know how to run a hotel. We know how to run a business, but we'd never been in the hospitality industry. I wish I'd known the full impact that living, moving from a large home into a 650 square foot villa with 4 children, 2 cats, a dog, lizards, and a baby chicken. Literally, the impact that would have on relationship and work, and a few things about balancing life and work. And I wish we'd had maybe more foresight of the end of the project, because there's a real turning point when you do something adventurous like this, where mentally we live in that villa. That's where we unpacked our suitcases, and people adapt very quickly, and you adapt to that mentality that this is where I live, at this dilapidated villa at the back, behind the fence at a hotel. And there's a real adjustment when home becomes work, becomes a public space. The guests come, you're very excited. And there's a very interesting mental adjustment from, we don't live in the pool and the clubhouse anymore. That's for our guests. So I wish we'd been a little more prepared for that.
Bryan, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Really appreciate it. It's been fascinating and fabulous to have you.
Well, thanks very much for having me.
Well, that is a wrap for today. What an amazing show. Thank you again to our guests and to all of you who are watching. And a special thank you to The Style That Binds Us for styling me in beautiful pieces by MM LaFleur. And Oh my God. Well, I was telling you all of this. A very special guest dropped by who I haven't seen in years. Welcome to Liftoff, Ted Rubin. How the heck are you?
Jeannie, listen, when I heard that Jeanniey Walden had a TV show, I had to just crash the party. So I came here, I banged on the door. Sorry if everybody here got a little bit crazy and say there's this crazy guy at the door, but it's so great to see you. And I am like so amazed at the show. I've been watching some of the episodes. It's fabulous.
I'm so thrilled to have you here. But before we catch up, I just have to tell everybody who's watching who you are and how important you are in the role and the community of entrepreneurship and marketing. You are a leading social marketing strategist, an international keynote speaker, a business advisor, an author, a connector, and your favorite role, provocateur,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So many years ago, you created the term return on relationship, that hashtag ROR that we see everywhere still to this day. So I guess that makes you also an influencer?
You know, some people call it that. I like to say that I'm a content creator because I think that good content creators are really the true influencers, because how many people can actually drive someone into a store? It's the people that you come back and read and listen to their opinions and let them provoke you to think about different ideas.
I love it. And you know as well as I do that it's relationships, networks, communities that just really are so important as you're building your professional career, your personal life. Everybody always needs to reach out to somebody, and it's those groups and networks that will help you along the way.
More than ever, I talk to young people, and look, we were young once, right?
We were.
Well, you still are. I'm the old guy in the room. But when you're young, you think you have plenty of time for those kinds of things. You don't realize how important it is. You're busy building your skill set. But what I try to convince the younger people I talk to, and actually people all along the way, is that the relationship is something that you need to start early, and you need to make a habit of knowing people's names, finding out what they're involved in. I mean, I like to tell a story that when I graduated college, I had my first job, and my dad asked me, "Did you get an appointment yet?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "When is it?" He goes, "Next." I said, "Next Thursday." He goes, "So what time?" I said, 9 o'clock. He goes, "When are you going to get there?" I said, "I don't know, about 5 minutes to 9. He says, "No, get there an hour early. Get to know the neighborhood. Go into the building. See what other companies are there. See if you can get into the office of the person you're meeting with early and see what's on the wall. Find points of emotional connection. Are they a grandfather, a father? Do they golf? Do they fish? Do they have grandkids? What's important to them?" Now, back then, you had to do it that way. Now, we have all these tools at our fingertips that you can learn this before you go in. But I find so many people overlook it. Relationships are like muscle tissue. The more you engage them, the stronger, more valuable they become. And a network gives you reach, but a community gives you power. So go beyond the network and build a community.
That is Ted Rubin, always giving advice, no matter what. Thank you so much, Ted, for stopping by.
pleasure.
Let's go catch up and find out what's going on.
Sounds great.
And before we do, I just want to say, everybody, thanks so much for joining this episode of Liftoff, and stay tuned because the next episode's going to be even better. Be sure to follow us at Liftoff with Jeannie for more tips behind the scenes and tell us what you want to hear on upcoming shows. I'm Jeanniey Walden. See you next time.
The proceeding was sponsored by Liftoff Enterprises, LLC.